I'm sorry. Okay. Let's try to get it going. So what I'm trying to do with you is to give you two things out of this course. One is a way to resolve conflicts in your own charts and others. In other words, what good are you as a counselor if you leave somebody hanging with the fact that they have a particular aspect that's going to cause them pain and suffering, right? Now I can go back and look at a chart, and I can sometimes, because I don't know what it were, I know my astrology enough that I know something's already happened. For example, in your case, Pat, I knew, when I saw that chart, I knew you've been crucified, you've been surgery, you've been suffered.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because she had every indicator, and her age tells me it's already happened. Because the cycle of her moon in that chart is 28 years, and I know it's gone over those points over and over again. At least
28 years?
You know, 28
That's the moon, right?
Yeah,
Moon
well,
cycle or no?
well, if you got a cross in your chart, that progressed moon and transit Saturn, which both have a 28-year cycle, have crossed over those points of that cross once or twice or 3 times or 4 times going on that chart. You got 4 points on that cross, right?
So what if I give you a chart of a person you've never seen, and I don't tell you anything about that person?
I never saw her chart before, or saw her before.
But there's no way of knowing if the thing has passed or it's still to come?
You know, I would probably know.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know my astrology enough to know that the likelihood cycle of things is going to occur.
And I'm 52.
Huh?
No, but I just wondered if
52, I
the
think that would
positioning
make-
of the planets or the houses, something has to do with the time period in your life.
Well, in her
If it has
case,
occurred or
yeah.
where it will.
in her case, Louise, she's 52 years old.
Mm.
The odds are that she's went through this many times with many suffering. You know, the cross in her chart is very clear.
Ah,
Okay, let me try to do a couple things here. First, I need my glasses with my Antares.
No, you know, I'm
on my
trying to
sun.
understand if there's a way of knowing when things.
He
Well,
said-
that's
he
per-
said
that's what we're gonna-
each
here.
point in the cross would have been a crisis, a crisis, a crisis, a crisis.
Yeah, but when? Has it happened or it will?
That's how you,
Happened 50 years
Luigi,
ago, right?
that's determined by progressions and by transits and by the progressive development of that chart. We can't cover all that in one class. I can't do it. It's just
Because
too
don't
much.
they say one orb corresponds to 1 year also? Is that
1
same
degree
true?
equals 1 year.
1 degree.
The scripture says a year is as a day in the eyes of the Lord. So what we do is if we want to know something about your 10th year of life, we look at the 10 days after your birth and look at the chart.
Is there 360?
Now, we would look at the 10th day and we would draw a chart. And then from that I would get the progressed moon,
Ah.
where it's moved. And I know that the progressed moon is going to take 28 years to go around that whole chart.
Mhm.
Okay, now, let me do something real quick. Let's see if I don't have. I don't want to spend a lot of time on individual charts, but I do want to just clear this up right away. So we can kind of get,
Yeah, I just want to get the gist of it because
I know.
I don't understand what's happening.
Okay, how do I get Mark in front of you? Is this you, Pat?
You have a lucky one.
Is this you?
No.
No, it isn't.
No.
What'd I get? Okay, let's go back. File, open recent. Where you
The
at?
third one down.
There you are, Linda. Okay. All right, here. Okay. Now, when I look at this chart, it's talking to me. It's very powerful. We have Jupiter and Saturn down here, and Saturn in Capricorn, and Jupiter in Aquarius. They're joined together by 6-degree orb. They're in conjunction. And if you look, Saturn, Satan, the devil, okay, the physical Saturn, in the cardinal signs, remember cardinal signs are what? Physical, right? Is opposing her moon in Leo and her Mars in Cancer. They're in opposition, right? You all see that? And this is also squaring those planets. Neptune here. See it?
Mhm.
Everybody with me? Okay, so right away, the very thing that happens when I look at a chart like this, I say, this is very physical. You got Saturn and Mars opposing each other. Mars with the moon, which rules the breast and the stomach, shows problems in that area instantly to me because it's opposing Saturn. If it wasn't opposing Saturn, Mars to the moon might not be so bad. But when you put the physical Saturn, the planet of separation, alienation, division, all that energy opposing this, then you put Mars with the moon. I know that a lot of her problems came out of her early childhood because the moon is in there. The moon rules your early childhood. The moon rules your mother. Your moon rules what you repress all the time in your life. It's the subconscious. Mars with the moon means she suppressed her anger all her life. And what happens is it tends to produce problems in the breast, Mars in Cancer. And in the stomach. Cancer rules the stomach and the breast. So when we did her chart, the first thing, when she sat down, I said, my God, you know, these are areas. And she confided in us, and she said, yes, I had those. You know, I had a mastectomy. I had a surgery in my stomach. All these things, Mars and surgery in the stomach, Cancer. Mars is in there, right there in Cancer. So we're looking at, where'd it go, huh? Searching, oh, there it is. So now that's not bad enough, okay? It's a grand cross. Look at the sun at 2 degree stars. So this is not just a cross, it's a crucifying cross. It's a complete, absolute cross in her chart. We talk about, you use terms, and she's got a star-crossed life. You've heard that expression? Star-crossed life. That's a star-crossed life. That's somebody that has a lot of physical pain.
And emotional.
And emotional, good for you. And who is constantly fluctuating between optimism and Saturn pessimism.
Right.
Somebody that has Neptune on that cross means she has trouble sleeping. I know it instantly because Neptune rules sleep. Neptune rules your ability to sleep well. And so what does she say? I take sleeping pills to deal with my sleep. That is Neptunian stuff. And Neptunian is energy that means the soul. Reverend Sherry, when she came in, asked me about Neptune. Neptune is the soul being pierced by the cross. It's not just underneath it like in Mercury. You got, you know, and other planets like Venus, where you have the cross underneath the spirit and the soul, or Jupiter, which is a crescent. The soul is over top of the physical. Neptune represents the piercing of the soul. A lot of this is karmic, meaning past life stuff, because that's what Neptune is. If you could go into regression under hypnosis, you might find out things about your past lives that would reveal to you why these things happen to you. Okay? It was like the woman I told you I was counseling, and she had Mars, I remember, with the moon, and I said to her, I said, you have a scar, Mars, you have a scar on your breast. Do you remember it? And she freaked out. She said, how could you know that? And I said, can I see it? And she wouldn't let me see it. Anyway, it always goes over. So anyway, so what did she do? She says, I have a fear of knives. This was in her 12th house, Neptunian's house. So I said, you were stabbed in a past life. And the mole on your breast is from that wound of a past life. And it's still indicated there. And she said to me, Ron, my entire life I've feared knives. If I walk into the kitchen and see a knife laying on the counter, I'd freak out. I got to put it away. That's from a past life. Okay? So you're going to find when you start working with astrology, you're going to see so much. It's going to open the door to so many revelations about a person. The more you work with it, the more you'll get like this, where you can see things, you can understand things. The other side of it is listening well. Yes, Pam?
You have to have, you can't do it with just a date, you have to have the time.
Well, yes, you can. If I did your chart without the time, I would still see the same cross. The only thing that would move a lot in a period of 24 hours would be the moon in that chart. So if you were born a lot later, stop that. Anyway.
So if you don't know the time of birth, let's
Still
say
do a sunrise
10 a.m. or 10 p.m.
The best time to do a chart, probably, I do them as a sunrise chart, okay? So, you know, you could be off, I mean, but that's, at least you're getting the ascendant and the sun sign. And most people do that, okay? So, what I would say is, if I did this chart and I didn't know the time, then Mars and the moon wouldn't be here, it could be down here, it could be anywhere. In 24 hours, everything moves through all those houses. In 24 hours, it shifts completely around that chart. If you're born at 6 a.m. in the morning, the sun would be right here. In her case, she's born in the afternoon because the sun's went over the midheaven, the point above us, and it's coming down over here. It would set in the west down here. The first thing you do when you do a chart, teach your students this, to make sure your chart's accurate, always look for the sun.
We did that the first week.
Did you? Good, good.
Born around 3
So we need to know the chart is accurate, first of all. There's a lot of people do make, especially when we used to do them by hand, we make a 12-hour mistake easy, right?
Yeah, somebody gave me your chart last week and she said, here, look, I said, this is not your chart. What time were you born? She said, what did she tell me? I said, this is not your chart. I said, this is like a progress chart. She said, I've been looking at this for years. I thought it was my chart.
Oh my God, yeah, good for you. Yeah, you need to just be aware. But anyway, so in this case where you have a grand cross with Neptune, Mars, Saturn, that's a very ill-fated chart. I don't use the word ill-fated, but it is. If I had a child that had this. Now, what would you deal with a child or a person that came to you as a counseling subject wanting advice on that chart? Are you going to leave them with that? You got a star-crossed chart, you know, you got a ill-conceived cross in your chart, it's going to cause you problems in life. That's something you won't ever do. You won't. You're not going to put that in someone's head. And we'll have them walking out of here saying, God, I wish I hadn't went for that reading. You know? Now all I got to do is live in fear the rest of my life because they told me this. What you do is you counsel them. If I have a client, I'm going to counsel them. And how am I going to counsel them? I say, look, you have Jupiter on your cross. Jupiter is involved in this whole cross. Anybody has Jupiter on the cross has Jesus on the cross. Jesus, 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 where it came from. Jupiter's optimism, it's faith. Okay, so it's on the cross. That means she can resurrect from her cross. And she has, quite frankly, done that. She's been through hell and back, but she's come above it all.
Not all, just most.
Well, you keep coming above it. You know,
Working on the anxiety, depression, that's been
Yeah.
bad. That's been hard.
Well, the reason you have that is Saturn-Jupiter
But then
conjunction.
Then she has Sun, trine Pluto, trine Saturn. Does she?
Sun trine Pluto is exactly right here.
And then Pluto, trine Saturn.
No, they're far out of order.
Oh, that's not 29, yeah.
The salvation is, though, very powerfully noted,
Oh, that's good.
is the Pluto trine Sun.
Yeah.
Because Pluto is resurrection and rebirth. Okay? It's in its highest meaning, it's death and rebirth. Okay? So generally we mean that in the ego sense. You die of your ego and you're born a new person. Okay? It's physical as well, though. I remember one of my last classes in Massachusetts, one of my students had this really afflicted Pluto. And I said, boy, that's definitely, because Pluto was in the midheaven, I said, that is death and resurrection. She died on an in a hospital giving birth to a child. And a priest walked in and he started praying over her after her heart stopped beating and she came back to life. Now look at all the implications of a Pluto. It's childbirth, it's rebirth, it's regeneration, it's all those things. And she experienced it literally. And who came to her? The only thing that saved her was that priest. And isn't that Jupiter? The priest? Okay, the prophet, the person that comes from the religious order and starts praying over her. That's Jupiter. Okay? In your case, you have Jupiter, strong conjunction Saturn in your chart, which tells me that you have the ability through faith to overcome anything in life. And faith meaning that Jupiter is faith. Jupiter's faith in the future. It's optimism. Jupiter was called by the ancients Optimum Maximus. Optimum Maximum. How about maximum optimism? Okay, where Saturn is pessimism. Saturn is guilt. Anybody's got a Saturn affliction like this with Mars, I absolutely know without any question that that person's dealt with a lot of guilt in their life. Why do I know that? Because Saturn is guilt, and what is Mars? Anybody?
How about the 7th house? It's empty, and that's the house that doesn't matter.
Yeah, we don't look at charts that way.
Ah.
You don't look at a house, no chart is empty. There's a sign there on that cusp, okay? There's Pisces there. Neptune rules
Because
that.
that's the house of marriage and
Exactly, but Neptune rules
Partnership.
it, and Neptune's crucified in this chart. So there's been a lot of challenges in relationships, okay? You've gone through that too, because that's what, I know that because Neptune rules that house. And that means you've gone through suffering, you've gone through heartbreak, and you've gone through disillusionment. And Neptune is more of any sign, of any symbol in your chart is disillusionment. It's a planet.
Mine is in my 7th house.
Your Neptune is.
the house of sex, marriage.
Yeah. Not sex so much, but it's marriage, yeah.
5 marriages.
Ah, you see.
Yeah. And the thing with Neptune,
Illusion, disillusionment.
you see, it's disillusionment because what is the planet of illusions? Neptune.
Neptune.
Okay, now put it on a cross. What do you got? Disillusionment. You
Right.
see the words? We're using the same words. No, Zeus, no. I don't want to get her barking. So what are we dealing with? We're dealing with disillusionment when it's afflicted in Neptune in a chart. And that's what you've had to experience all your life, and you've had to deal with that.
And the last marriage I was widowed.
Yeah.
We were widowed also.
Yeah.
Both of you went through that. And that's sorrow, self-undoing, Pisces, Neptune. All that comes from that, okay? Okay,
But
so,
in her 5th chart,
Yeah.
fifth house,
yeah.
what does that mean since,
Well, it's a house of romance, obviously. It's Leo's house, okay? So it just brings more disillusionment and problems with that house too, because the cross is all formed in it, okay?
but she has children, so how does that affect?
That's the house of children, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's nothing bad with it.
That's the Jupiter
Yeah.
aspect.
The thing is with Jupiter,
My
Saturn
kids are
there.
great.
Yeah, it's the best part of your life.
It's
you
the
know?
best part of my life, my
So
kids.
Jupiter brings bounty and good. Saturn's also in there. It's in Capricorn though. It shows, generally to me, it indicates some problems with the father.
Well, he
Okay.
died.
Huh?
My
Yeah,
father or their father?
Their father.
their father.
Yeah, he died.
No,
They
but
were-
that's what I mean. That Saturn is the denier. Saturn takes away. Saturn is the Satan, you know, he destroys, okay? And so it's in your 5th house, so it's right there in the house of the child. So it shows the father was a problem in one way or the other, whether you saw his death or what. Anyway, let's not do this too much because we don't want to just focus all on one person today. I want to focus on reading charts in general, okay? And one more thing I cannot emphasize enough is if you don't give people the tools once you read a chart to deal with their chart, deal with the energies in their chart, you're doing them a great disservice. You know, Sherry's a minister, so I know she does that instinctively. That's her calling. Her calling is to minister to the needs of other people. Her calling is to guide people out of the darkness into the light. That's what ministers are about. That's what preachers and people are supposed to be about anyway. They're supposed to be. And in the case of a client that comes to you, if you leave them hanging with a crossed chart or whatever their afflictions are in their chart, and you don't show them the way out of that, you've done a great disservice. That's why I'm a metaphysician, not just an astrologer. What does a metaphysician mean? I'm a physician of your soul. That sounds like a big order, okay? But I am a physician of your soul. I'm here to heal your soul. You understand that? And believe me, when I say the soul, I'm talking about your subconscious mind, not your conscious mind. If I'm a good speaker, I'll hold your attention for 3 hours up here without you even budging. Do you know why? Because I'm communing with your soul. A good speaker will do that. He'll commune deeper than the conscious mind. Okay? The early Christians were masters of the soul. They did a lot of healing work. How did they do those healings? Listen to this scripture. And Paul beheld him with steady gaze and said, your sins are forgiven you, get up and walk. Anybody pick up anything in that shouldn't even, why did they even say it?
Hypnotism.
Good for you. If I want to penetrate, I want to get into your soul, I need to get your attention and get into your eyes and get through to your soul. We've heard the expression, the eyes are the windows of what?
Of the soul.
The soul.
It's like mesmerism.
So how do you commune with somebody on a soul level? If you're walking in integrity, if you're walking in light yourself, you will be able to do that. And I say that meaning you have love in your heart towards yourself and towards others. There's a scripture that says a man who loves his wife loves who? Himself. You can't love anyone unless you love yourself. If you're spending your life accusing yourself, you all made mistakes. We all made them. I'm the biggest mistaker in the world. I spent 9 years in prison. I spent 9 years in prison as a young man for being the worst guy on the earth. I was wanted in New York, Maryland, Virginia, Ohio, Texas, Michigan. I was a bad guy. So we've all done things in our life. And I went through years of counseling. Why is Ron in here? Why did Ron get like this? What happened to Ron? And the psychologist would try to help me. Let's find an excuse for you. Let's find out who's the fault for you being here. Your mother. She was married 9 times. She didn't raise you. She put you in homes. She mistreated. You were, abused as a child. I could find every reason why I was who I was and why I was there. What is Satan, Saturn, the devil, the accuser of our brethren? He who accused our brethren before God both day and night. That's satanic. That's like, let's find someone else to blame. I'll blame my mother. Well, a lot of people have bad mothers, but they grew up fine. And then one day in my cell, I recognized that who's the fault for Ron being here? It was Ron's the fault. No one else the fault. I'm the blame. Now I'm dealing with another thing. It's called guilt. Now I don't want to live anymore. Why should I live? Because now I've got all of it on my own heart. Until one day I woke up and I understood about forgiveness. And I began to live in that light. I began to forgive myself and recognize that I am a whole being and that there's a God within me and He dwells in this temple that I am. And then my life transformed and I changed. But it took that recognition of the word forgiveness and letting go of the past. And remember, Saturn is the past. Saturn, Christ said to the devil, to Peter actually, get behind me, Satan. Satan, get behind me. I don't need to do that. When they accused him of being, how can you speak of Moses and the prophets? You're not even 30 years old. And Christ said back to them, I am and I am and I am. He didn't say I am, I was, and I will be. There was no past or future tense in His words. I am, and I am. And when you are in the now, in the know, the word now has now, the word know has now in it. Think about it. K-N-O-W. A good student is a person that can be here now. Attention deficit disorders. What do we got? All these kids taking Ritalin to get rid of attention deficits. Why did they teach them to meditate? Why don't they teach them what coming to the center of their own being is about? Instead of distractions with games and TVs and all these things. You see what I'm saying?
They're meant to be batteries in the future
Exactly.
to power the whole system. That's just it.
It's corrupted. And the music and all the things that people put in their unconscious, right? But I'm getting off the track, I know. You know me, I'm a great digressor. I take you everywhere but somewhere we expect I'm going to take you. But I want you to understand something. You're here to change people's lives, and it starts with your own. Listen to me. It starts with your own. You're not going to change anybody's life until you change yours. You're not going to touch anybody's life until you touch your own. Until you really get the love inside you that wants to touch other people's lives in a communal, loving fashion. Then you'll be a prophet. Then you will be a prophet. Because you'll be here now, you'll see somebody so completely in the present moment. You'll be in His presence. You'll be in their presence. And from that present moment, you will understand all about them, their future and their past. They'll say, how did you know that? Well, I got an astrology chart. And it says this and it says that. Ah, what a counseling tool. You're not saying you are this, you are that. You're saying your chart says this. Little distance there, isn't it? Little safety in that, isn't there? Okay. So, wow, did I get off on a tangent? I want to teach you how to interpret a chart.